The first preseason game of the Phoenix Suns season is on Sunday, and on today's episode of Locked On Suns, we'll preview what we'll be watching for and break down the latest news in Suns land. Let's go.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And we're back. This is Locked On Phoenix Suns. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Brendon Kleen, a credentialed media member covering the Suns for the past 7 seasons, a writer at Suns.com, and the host of the Just Basketball Show wherever you get your podcast. Thank you so much for making Locked On Suns your first listen here on this Friday. Happy to have you. We're free and available everywhere, including YouTube, so just hit that follow or subscribe button wherever you're finding the show. Get it in your feed Monday through Friday from here through the rest of the season. Become an everydayer and stay locked onto the Suns right along with me for the next 8 months we have as basketball is closer and closer. Joining us on Friday, as he does every week, is Aaron Edwards, and we are going to talk preseason. The Monty revenge game is already here, Aaron, to start us off with everything. I had a couple things that I'm looking for, but I think the best place to start might actually just be first to tell people that the show is brought to you by FanDuel, the official sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network. You can make every moment more by visiting FanDuel.com, betting $5 and getting $200 back in bonus bets guaranteed. Again, that's FanDuel.com/LockedOn. But the place that I wanted to start besides that is, who do you think is going to start in this first game? I'm assuming we know 4 of the names, but it can change. I'm not asking you to say like who's going to start the first playoff game or something, but who do you think that they'll go with first in that 5th starter spot in the first preseason game?
You were there, but I think just for continuity, I think it's going to be Okogie still. I think Vogel seems like one of those dudes that he'll figure out that the real 5th one later. It might not stay Okogie, but having dudes that have played together before, all but 1 is, or 2, like the Beal thing is going to be new too. So I think just having 3 dudes on the floor that have played together before is kind of just the smart thing to do, and you don't have to do all that much teaching. So it's going to be Okogie. I think it would be the right thing for now, at least.
Sure, I like that. I think it makes sense to have that holdover. Obviously, he's one of the guys that it's not like it's out of this world that he could actually earn that spot too. So you're not picking somebody just for the sake of familiarity. And yeah, I think treating it as his spot to lose might be the right approach. He's also a lot older than a lot of these other guys. I mean, at least in terms of experience in the NBA and everything else. I actually haven't talked to Okogie. I had to step away from media day before he spoke, and then I wasn't at the training camp availability that he spoke at, I believe, on Wednesday. But yeah, he's a super confident and comfortable guy. It's just funny you say that, though, because you would have thought that would have been the case in the playoffs last year, and he did not keep his starting spot.
He spoke about that
maybe
too,
not.
So.
Yeah,
and he spoke about just Monty wanting to go with a little more length, I think he said. I forget, but you can tell he's kind of still sore about it, but yeah, he's fine either way, it seems, but he still ended up getting playing time in the playoffs a little bit.
Are you with me that it probably is going to be a game where we just see everybody play 20 minutes? That's kind of what my expectation is. It's just play it pretty slow, mix and match lineups, see what pops, see what doesn't pop, who plays well together, who heats it up offensively, just very, very loose, because they're also playing 5 preseason games, which not a lot of teams do.
Yeah, I can see him trying a bunch of stuff out. I don't think Okogie might start the second one. He might finally want to see what Udo can do in this lineup. If he wants more shooting out there, he probably wants to he's going to check. Well, he said no KD at center. I think he said 2 days ago it wouldn't be a lot of KD at center, but I think he's going to try out.
He said, he said it would be unfair to ask him to do that for 20 minutes a night. He was speaking about that more in the context of taking things easy and how much are you going to ask defensively of your stars and that type of thing. I think we will see KD at the 5.
Yeah. I think the last 4 minutes of a game must win game 5 or something. He's throwing KD up to 5 and he's just letting it fly. But yeah, like I can see him he has so much flexibility with the 5th spot. It can be Nasir. It can be Bates Diab. Like it could be pretty much anybody depending on what he needs for that night. So yeah, I could see just even once he does figure out the lineup, I could still see that 5th spot being pretty like just a wild card, and it's going to be hard to game plan for because you have Beal, Book, and KD out there, and you kind of won't know who the 5th guy is going to be on any given night.
One thing I think we will see pop right away that is, well, there's 2 other things I'm interested in. One, I think we'll see right away is just how much not only the offense looks different with Nurkic operating more as a passer, but also I think we'll get a sense of just how much he's going to handle the ball. Like, what are the actual sets that they're running? And I think they will try to emphasize that because that does need to be figured out by the first game of the regular season, just as far as what's the balance going to be of how often are we running set plays, who's initiating those set plays, who's calling those set play, all that stuff. That actually is like, you kind of need to have a baseline established by the time the real games start because you just don't want to be scrambling and losing because of that. So I think Nurkic is the number 1 person I'm looking at because the other guys, we kind of know how it'll look. You know, it might be interesting to see the mix of it, but how much do they incorporate Nurkic, I think is going to be pretty big.
Yeah, and I think just like you said, his ability to pass and like get the ball at the free throw line and make the right decision passing wise, like that's going to be new for us. That's going to be new for Book. Like I think having a big that who's an amazing screen setter and get a willing passer that is very like he said it, he's comfortable passing. I saw a highlight reel of like passes that he makes that he's really confident making. Like I think that's going to be a really big part of this offense because he is going to have space. You can't leave these shooters. Like he is going to be able to take advantage of switches if he gets one, and you can't leave your guy on a team like this. Yeah. So I think like just that type of offense that we'll be able to run is going to be pretty big for him.
The other thing I'll just mention is, and you can tell me if there's anything we haven't hit that in this particular game you're intrigued by. Maybe it's a player, maybe it's something else, but for me, it's going to just be how aggressive are they right away defensively? You know, if they're really like flying around and sending a bunch of attention and help at the paint or defending screens, you know, he talked about earlier this week trying to keep it just to 2 players defending the screen and not necessarily having to send a bunch of initial help, but just what does that all look like and how aggressively do they play? Because if they already feel pretty overwhelming and intense athletically, physically, whatever, from this quick after 1 week together, that'll just tell me that Vogel is really pushing that and that the players are absorbing it. But I also think there's a version of Sunday's game where it feels a little light. The Pistons put up a bunch of points and it just is more of a feel out game.
Yeah, I can see him like just testing the like how extreme he wants to push the defensive stuff early. Like, because you got to see who's going to need help throughout the season, who can handle like switches or just getting picked on. Like Beal, they're gonna test to see if he's the weak link pretty early. So I think like that's probably why you want to test the intensity of like the defense on this team, because like I don't think Dallas is like very good, but I know that if they know that Beal is the weak link, Kyrie's going to get him switched. Luka's going to get him switched. And you got to know how you're going to help based off of that. If Beal is going to be the weak link that a lot of people think he's going to be, but I think just having Vogel is going to make him a better defender than he even thinks he can be. But we'll just have to see.
Mm-hmm. All right. Let's talk about the news of the day, which is Mat Ishbia the team announcing an investment in a new office complex as well as a unique Soul for the Mercury practice facility, all nearby the downtown arena. We'll get into what that means, some of the details of it next. First, today's show brought to you by FanDuel, the official sports book of the Locked On Podcast Network. and America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. Amazing deal. All you got to do is put some money in, you get some back. The app is easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, whether it's the NFL or the upcoming NBA season, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. But on the NBA side, there's win totals, there's awards, there's champion odds, all that good stuff. Those futures in the NBA side, the Cardinals 3-point underdogs at home we talked about earlier in the week. Lots of good stuff. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. All right, let's keep it rolling here, Aaron. We've talked a lot about Ishbia and the things he's doing. I wasn't surprised to see the news today of the office complex, the sort of like staff center that they're going to do, which feels very like, Silicon Valley startup type of thing. Not in a bad way, but it's in vogue right now. I saw like pickleball courts. I'm like, what percentage of the employees are about to use a pickleball court on their days of working? We'll see. But I wasn't surprised to see that. That's kind of in line with what he did at his mortgage company. Did you have any thoughts on that side of things, of taking the offices out of the arena, putting them in this new place, committing and, devoting a lot of resources to kind of the employee side of things?
No, like that's just like the new wave of being like a businessman and owner. Like you kind of want your employees to have somewhere else to go and to work in that office. I think it's like that way. Going to the facility, to the stadium, it's like more of a treat now. Like you have the office where you work, and when you go to the stadium, that's game time kind of thing. And I think like for him, like he treats it all like sports. So the business part and the business building is the practice part, and getting to the stadium is going to be game time for him. Like that's just how he did it at Michigan, probably practice facilities, and then you get to the stadium and it's game time. And he tries to take everything that he does business wise and use it in like sports terms. So yeah, this makes sense that he built a whole separate thing. I didn't think he'd do it this fast, honestly, though.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like we can pivot to the Mercury thing, but in both cases, the practice facility and this employee center are both pre-existing buildings from what it sounds like. And so to me, that's the real benefit of what he's taking advantage of here too, is just, you hear about like the Sixers practice facility is across the river. It's in New Jersey, and, different things. And for the Suns to be able to take advantage of the fact that downtown Phoenix is slowly growing, but is still definitely not some sort of hyper competitive real estate situation. Yeah. And then there are just a lot of open spaces and empty buildings and all this type of stuff to take over and renovate and do it quickly. It's the smart thing to do. Why the Arcadia thing is nice for the practice center, because that's where the athletes live. But other than that, if you're just talking about where you want your like marketing assistant to like drive on their 9 to 5, like put it right by the arena and put it somewhere that there's already a place to do it. So I think that all makes sense. But on the Mercury side of things, like this is really cool. And it's just funny how the story can kind of change, because the practice facility that the Suns have on Camelback is obviously, it was talked about at the time as one of the selling points, or like the big good aspects of it, was that the Mercury were going to have a lot more space and their own space and get to have access and all this stuff. And then Mat Ishbia just sort of like threw that in the trash can, and he's like, no, they deserve their entire own thing. Like, forget you get to use our thing. That's not even good enough. It's going to be its own thing. And honestly, like, I think that's actually more in line with what the WNBA is doing, because places like Vegas and Seattle have gone out of their way. Now, both of those ownership groups don't own NBA teams, but Mark Davis does own the Raiders, and he went out of his way to say, no, you're not going to use the Raiders facility. You're going to use your own facility. And I think that's just going to have to, it's not even a competitive advantage in the W anymore. It's like competitive baseline if you want to be kind of one of the top franchises.
Yeah. And I think it's weird that Diana Taurasi had to wait so long to get all of these, like be treated like a real professional and get all these professional things. And it took like obviously a new owner and all that, but that was like the biggest thing for me, is like toward the end of her career, she's finally getting all this stuff. And that probably is the rougher part of it.
Well, I guess she can kind of take solace, not to get too like sentimental, but like probably doesn't happen if she doesn't do what she did, and like,
yeah.
I'm sure there's days where that's enough. I'm sure there's days where it's not enough, and it still kind of frustrates her. But yeah, I'm going to be really interested in what they go with the head coach because, well, I guess to link it to the other WNBA news of the week, the Warriors are getting a team, and the Suns coincidentally just hired somebody from their NBA front office to be the WNBA Mercury GM here. But it'll be interesting. I think we should expect something pretty out of the box from a head coaching standpoint. Or if not out of the box, then just they're going to get the top coaching candidate. Like they're going to pay whatever, and they are going to roll out the red carpet. They're going to hire whatever the next Becky Hammon is. I think we should all be prepared for that.
Oh yeah, like Mat Ishbia, he's only shown now that he can only go big. So there's not gonna be some up and coming coach or something that people have been talking about at a D2 school. Like it's gonna be none of that shit. Like Mat Ishbia is gonna drop money for the best person that's out there right now.
Do the employees and Mercury and anyone else who's getting an upgrade in their day-to-day from this have to thank the Spurs and the Thunder for taking on Campaign and Dario Saric's salaries and those salary dump trades? Is that where he found the money for this? Because I like as much as like he's not Steve Ballmer.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Like I see this and I'm like, great, what do I care? It's not my money. But at the end of the day, I'm like, what's going on with the account situation in here? Is he pulling like an Elon Musk with Twitter? Or is there some Saudi Arabian stuff going on behind the scenes? Like, what is happening?
I think like I'm not saying like I'm saying hypothetically if the ball drops because like we can get into the whole billionaire thing or not, but like we can if we wanted to follow the money, I'm sure it might get a little weird. But I think he's just a dude that made a bunch and he finally wants to spend it. I think he wanted an NBA team for so long and he made that very obvious. And he got blocked a couple of times when he tried to get Milwaukee or whatever. Like, I think a dude that wanted a team so long, he knew he wanted to do all this stuff for whoever finally let him get a team. It just happened to be us. I think he was always going to do this, like this much stuff though.
Yeah, it's super interesting. Like my wife was, I think it was somebody in my family was talking. He came up, something about the Suns came up, and they were super surprised that he lived in Michigan still. And I'm like, well, it's like a publicly traded company that he runs, so it'd be kind of, a red flag to his stakeholders if he just like moved from where the company is. Yeah, is where it's headquartered, but it is also strange to not live where you own a team. Like just everything about the situation is very fascinating. I don't want to come across because I know Suns fans are just like, who cares? It's spending money. It's way better than Sarver. And no, I fully agree, but it's just interesting.
Yeah. And I think like this scenario is different. Like usually when you're buying a team, they are absolutely in the dumps. They're trash. They're really bad. True. Like he ended up getting to a team that had the foundation already. They had the bones ready to go. Like everything was set up already. You have the star player. You have people wanting to come here already. It was just Sarver lost his team at probably the worst possible time for him. And that was
when you think about the arena, the practice facility, the finals appearance, yikes.
Yeah. I think like nobody loses a team during that time and like during that time when they own one. This is usually supposed to be the best time for it. And I think that's the new part of this. An owner losing his team when they're on the come up, and Ishbia paid the dough like because it was worth it. Like, and Sarver came out big too. I think he would rather own a team, but owners don't really lose their teams when their team is like hot.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. It's different. I thought like the Nets were somewhat on the upswing, but even then, like a lot of what kept them on the upswing was Joe Tsai. Like they were probably, if we really go back to when he bought the team, it was not exactly a thriving situation. And then the Rockets changed hands, but if I'm remembering right, that was after like the best years of Harden and Chris Paul that Tillman bought him from Leslie Alexander. So yeah, it is a unique situation. It's very intriguing to follow, but obviously it's good.
we were saying some random names about people that are going to buy this team
right?
like a year ago. So
Like
I think
Lorene Powell Jobs and Larry Ellison.
Yeah.
And I think Elon Musk came out because it's just fun to throw his name out there for whatever.
Disney dude. Like we said,
yeah.
We said some random people.
Yeah, this is a better outcome. Shout out to Bill Simmons for knowing it all along. All right, let's close out with the Olympics. Let's talk about the latest news, which is that Joel Embiid has been added. The latest super team in the NBA actually is going to be playing in Paris next summer. And there is a Suns connection, which obviously is that Booker and Durant and potentially Bradley Beal are playing. Should they? What does it matter? How excited are we? Next, first, today's show brought to you by Bird Dogs. Bird Dogs are my favorite new pair of shorts, and I truly mean that. I wear them all the time. I'm literally wearing them right now. I'm not going to stand up and show you. You just got to take my word for it. But they have stretch khaki shorts that fit slimmer through the thigh, like Lululemon, but a little better. No stiff restricting cotton. They're cloud knit fabric. Looks like khaki, stretches the way you want it to. Again, giving you that slimmer fit, that slimmer look without having to sacrifice the mobility. But best of all for Arizonans, the cloud knit stuff also has the anti-stink sweat wicking fabric, meaning even in October when we're still for some reason in the upper 90s, low hundreds, you don't have to worry about moisture, smell, discomfort, any of that. You stay dry all day long. They got the extra layers. They got the extra fabric right there for you. But they also have a large line of other stuff. You can wear it golfing, on a date, evening out, in the pool, working out, at work, whatever. Go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA. Enter the promo code LockedOnNBA at checkout for a free Bird Dogs water bottle with your order. See everything they have going on. Try out a pair for yourself. Take home a free water bottle in your order when you use the code LockedOnNBA at checkout. That's birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA or that promo code at checkout. You won't want to take your Bird Dogs off. That's their promise. All right, keeping it rolling. Let's close out, Aaron. Not a huge Suns connection. I think the thing that I'm curious about with the Olympics, though, after now, Embiid has decided against playing for Cameroon, which is his home country, Paris or France, which is one of those things, we'll say, and then the United States, which is where he's lived for most of his life. It feels like this team's about to be unbeatable. I feel a little bad for Bam Adebayo, but the Embiid side of it, I had always wondered, like, how much will his announcement actually even matter? Because if he struggles with his health, or if he asks out and spends all next summer on the trade block and dealing with all that stuff, does he even actually play? I think that's still an open question for me. And I kind of feel the same thing about Kevin Durant. So let's just talk about him first. Were you surprised that he was so straightforward about he will be playing? And do you think that is 100%, or are there some things that might happen this season with him or with his health or whatever that might change that?
First, way to dodge the France politics thing. That was really good. And
one of those things.
I think with you talking about KD or with Embiid?
With KD specifically. I mean, Embiid, if you have thoughts, cool. He's not a Sun. KD.
With Embiid, like him making a plan for next year after they get bounced in the second round, I just don't see him like playing in it, honestly. Like that's just not a thing that I can pay attention to. And like on the other end, yes, I see KD doing it because he hoops all summer without stakes. I think hooping all summer with stakes is something that he would love to do because the dude just loves playing basketball. And I think Booker loves playing basketball. That's why he's going. Like, I think the dudes that have already been 100% saying they're going to go because they love hooping during the summer. And you don't want to do it at like Planet Fitness or something like with a bunch of players. Like you'd rather do it playing against other countries for America if you're going to hoop. Like, I think that's just the best way to look at it. Like KD loves hooping and winning a gold medal while you were going to do the one thing you were going to do all summer anyway. It seems pretty dope.
He's also one of those guys, like, talked about it a little bit as it relates to his contract and if he's going to retire after this deal, how much longer is it going to be in Phoenix? It's all just guessing, but thinking through it, it's like, to me, whether it's Kareem or even a guy like Steve Nash or whoever you want to point to, these players who have been able to extend their careers for a really long time, it's often because they play a style that what they're doing physically on the court isn't really related to them getting hurt, right? And I think you compare that with somebody like LeBron where, the foot thing, and if he continues to have stuff like that, he's just not really LeBron anymore. And if I don't know if he wants to play basketball where he's some kind of floor spacer or like center, just setting screens out there and like, trying to take charges and stuff. So with Durant, I don't think he's going to have to adjust like that. I think it doesn't really matter what he's doing. It doesn't really matter how much he's playing. I think injuries are just going to happen because of how big he is and because, as you get older, it's going to happen. So I had kind of expected that he might just sort of pass the baton because he's been doing it for so long. But once he said it, I'm like, I guess so. Why not? Right. So, I mean, if he obviously, heaven forbid, had a major injury or something, maybe, there's no need if he's recovering to push it or, whatever, which is obvious. But do you think he would still do it if they like lost in the finals or had some sort of heartbreaking end? Same thing with Booker. We can pivot to him too. I wondered that. Like, I guess Book did that once already, but I don't know. It might be kind of hard to get all the way there again and then just be like, all right, let me just go play with all the people who like just beat me or we got into it throughout the course of a series and whatever. I don't know. It's admirable he did it in 2021, but I was thinking, like, especially with the Curry and Kerr angle and everything else, like, I don't know if either one of them would love that if they lose in like 7 games in the finals to go out there and just put on the Team USA jersey.
Yeah, I think in that like that type of scenario, it would be pushing it. I can see them still playing. So like that was a brutal finals loss that Book went through. Like they were up 2-0 and then sort of fly back with them. And I think that's like
that didn't get enough attention.
I think if he can do that, I think he just likes basketball because honestly, I'm shocked he didn't say out like he was out. And so, I think if he's willing to do something that crazy and that brutal, I think he just really wants to hoop and win another gold medal.
Do you think Beal is, I don't want to say this too bluntly, like, is he good enough to make it? But like, do you think looking at who was on the roster the last Olympics, who was on the roster in FIBA, and some of the guys we already know are going to probably do it this year, do you think Beal makes the final cut, or who is he kind of like battling for that type of spot?
That's hard because we're going to have to see what Beal looks like on a good team. Like I can maybe answer this in December, but we're going to have to see like what his decision making is, if he can be a playmaker, if he can be off ball, like how comfortable he is being the third guy. In Olympic terms, being the fourth guy, the fifth guy, like we're gonna have to see like how much of a team player he is. So we kind of won't know that until this is gonna be the best team he's ever played for in his life, probably. So we're gonna have to see how he handles that.
So 2021, Beal obviously didn't play because he got COVID, I think. Middleton, sort of a guard. I think Beal's above him. Lillard, TBD if he plays. I wouldn't be surprised if he did not. I mean, he should make it if he wants to do it, but we'll see. Yeah. Levine, Beal's over him. Drew, I'm not sure on. He's another one where it'll probably depend on health and how the Celtics season goes and whatever else. You have Book, you have Curry, who they're just going to be on the team if they want to play. So I don't know. I don't necessarily think anyone from this World Cup team outside of Anthony Edwards is ahead of him. We'll see about Cade Cunningham. It kind of depends on just like what the roster needs because Beal and him aren't really the same type of player.
And we didn't need guards. We couldn't rebound. And I think that's probably like the bigger thing. Like we couldn't beat real actual bigs in FIBA and we just got like brutalized inside. So I think that like the guard thing is always going to be fine. Like regardless, like Beal, it's going to be a stretch. But I think the bigs is always going to be the issue for us.
Yeah, I think the point you made about how he plays this year is the right one because if you're talking about a version of Beal who is not just like a worse version of Anthony Edwards, then maybe, I think we all expect Ant to take a big leap and he now has another year of experience in the program that gives him a leg up. So if Beal can do some things as a playmaker more and be a better defender than we're expecting and sacrifice and do some of the little stuff and whatever, I could see it, and I don't think Durant's sway in a situation like that is insignificant. Like if he wanted Beal to come on, I think that might go kind of a long way in deciding if it is sort of on the cusp of one or the other. If Durant says like, I think Brad should come, then maybe that's enough to get him to come.
Yeah. But on the other side, if Bron wants Austin Reeves instead.
I forgot about LeBron. I forgot he said he wanted to do it. That's a whole other can of worms with that.
We hit this real late, but if LeBron says something, it's probably going to happen. So I think a lot of that roster is going to be who's friends with who and who's got pull.
And then what comes out of it? Because if you send all those guys out there, like we've already seen the Heat Big Three and any number of other combos get put together overseas in some late night, cards and drinking sessions. We'll see what happens this time.
Yeah, he's going to have to start thinking about stuff like that again soon. Like KD's going to be old. Beal is older. Like I think like some of that stuff, like he's going to have to start getting in that recruiting mindset again, thinking about the next level. Because Book's still young. Like it's insane how young he is, and he's still got so much time to go. So yeah, like he's going to have to go to at least another Olympics after this one if he wants to keep his career going.
Yeah, we will see. I just think it's actually too much talent now. That's my take. Like,
yeah,
I'm less excited to watch the games after all this than I was. There's no drama. If any game is within 10 points in the final 5 minutes, it's a failure. I don't even care if they win.
Yeah, USA has never been cool about being embarrassed, and they got embarrassed last month. So I think that's what it was, is if you embarrass them, then they're going to bring out the big guns. And that was very obviously going to happen once we lost those two games.
I just want to see hear, I guess, the response or comment that, like what is LeBron saying to Reeves right now about that, or like, what's Book going to have to say to Michaela or Cam? Like, we have to clean your mess up, basically, is what's happening here. Like, come on,
that was cute. That was cute, guys, but it's our time now.
Basically. All right. That'll wrap us up. Basketball, real NBA games, real Suns games will have happened by the next time we talk. So hit follow, hit subscribe, get my recap of preseason game number 1 on Sunday night, Monday morning, and much more every single day throughout the rest of the season. I will talk to you guys next week.